Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As usual, I am your host, Sellssi. I'm doing it here with Lukuman Evergreen.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us,
Y-
Lukuman.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a
Yes.
pleasure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So today, we've seen the African team, one of them play today. I
Yeah.
think is the final one we're going to see before the third round of fixtures. Wydad.
Yeah.
Wydad have taken part in the Club World Cup game with Juventus. Unfortunately, it hasn't been going well for most of the African teams. Today, we're going to break down the African team contingent performance in this competition, their chances of making it to the round of 16, and what needs to change to get us being better at the world stage. Subscribe if you haven't. Click on that notification bell to get more updates. We'll jump right into it and look, man. Overall, what have been your impressions on the Club World Cup?
Well, I mean, it's been exciting. You look at the fact that it is an expanded tournament,
Yeah.
and we are getting more teams from across the various continents, and it also tests the ability of most of these teams. I mean, it also pits the performances of continent to continents, and it also brings out the best in all these clubs. I mean, when you look at the general view so far, you would say the South American teams have really proven their
Yeah, at
worth.
the point they were all topping their groups.
Exactly. And so it tells you that there is a lot of quality from South America. Africa is a little bit behind. I mean, we were expecting a lot from these teams because in the last few years, they have been the strongest forces on the continent. You look at
yeah.
Ahly, you look at Wydad Casablanca, Mamelodi Sundowns, who
Sundowns.
were even in the final
Yeah.
of this year's CAF Champions League. And so this are our best representation over there. But then again, it tells you that African football has a lot to do in terms of catching up with South America, Europe, and as painful as it may sound,
Yeah.
even Asia. But then also when you pit our performances to the American clubs, we look a little better than them.
That's what I was going to get to. We look a little better than them. Yesterday, Mamelodi Sundowns lost, and it looked like they were glorifying a loss. We look a little bit better than them, but we don't want to be like them. We don't
Yeah.
want to compare ourselves to those that didn't do so well. We want to be at the top. So such comparisons, I for one feel it doesn't help you to develop in a way. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's true. I mean, in terms of comparison, I mean, when it comes to football, when it also comes to the history of football, I mean, Africa has come a long way. You look at our performances internationally in terms of international football, the likes of Ghana, Egypt, South Africa, from youth football to even football at the highest level. I mean, in the last World Cup, we saw Morocco reach the semi-finals of the
Yeah.
competition, and so when it comes to competition, yes, we don't have to really look at the teams that we are better than. We have to look at those that
We
are
want to
better than.
aspire to.
Exactly. We want to aspire to, like the Europeans and
Yeah.
then the South Americans. And so, like I said, we have a lot of catching up to do. In as much as we don't want to be comparing ourselves to the ones we are better than, we can also pick a little bit of things from them because we might be better than the Americans when it comes to football, but then when you look at their level of organization, to be able to attract players like Lionel Messi to their league, to be able to compete, the amount of money that has been invested in the game, in that aspect, you also look at it and say, in terms of business of the game, we can also be learning a few things from the
them,
Americans, in terms of the marketability of our league. And so for me, that is what I think we should be looking at. But then when it comes to football, I mean, of course, we are ahead.
So let's jump into the African team. Starting from Group A, we have Ahly over there, the champions of the CAF Champions League, champions of the continent. In the last 4 years that was used, they won it, I think, 3 or 2 times.
Twice,
That's twice, yes. So that's what brought them into this competition. Your thoughts on Ahly? More or less, they're out. 2
Well, I
losses.
mean,
Yet to score a goal in the competition.
Yeah. It's disappointing.
Yeah, it is.
Because they are the Real Madrid of African football.
Exactly.
I mean,
We expected a lot more.
Exactly. And if you look at their group, I thought they had a chance of qualifying. I mean, Inter Miami, Palmeiras, themselves, and then FC Porto.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a group that they should have been able to navigate. Unfortunately, they are
couldn't.
yet to score a
goal, yeah.
They have a point. yes, they have a slim chance of progressing
Progressing, yeah.
from that group. But then in their final game where they will be playing FC Porto, FC Porto also has a chance of
That's
progressing.
tomorrow.
Exactly. And so it makes it quite interesting. I thought they could have fetched at least a win in their
yeah.
first two games. You look at that game against Inter Miami, they should have won that game, had a penalty, and
Yeah,
then
they
missed
couldn't
it.
find the
Yeah,
back
and
line,
so it's disappointing with the kind of performances that they've put in so far. But then there's still one more game for them to go.
Yeah.
Can they make it out of the group? I don't think they have they have that good chance of progressing out of that group because FC Porto haven't really been bad.
Yeah.
Yes, they've lost one and then drawn one, but then they've not been bad. The unfortunate thing about this group is that a draw between Palmeiras and Inter Miami could mean both, regardless of the results from Ahly and FC Porto, both teams will go
through.
home.
So Inter Miami and Palmeiras
just need a point.
They just need a point to go through. So it doesn't look good for
it doesn't really look good for
Ahly.
Yeah.
And I think it's disappointing because I expected a lot from Ahly to be quite honest with you. The champions from Egypt, champions, CAF Champions League winners.
Yeah.
I think they only lost this year to
they lost in the semi-final to Mamelodi Sundowns.
Mamelodi Sundowns. Yeah. Pyramids won it this year. So it has been a disappointing time for them in the CAF, in the Club World Cup. Better luck next time because it doesn't look like they will qualify. They have just 1 point. They have to hope. It's not in their hands.
Yeah, it's not in their hands.
It's not in their hands. If they want to go through, they have to hope that either one of Inter Miami or Palmeiras win their game, and they win.
They would have to win
heavily too because they have some goal deficits to overcome. Let's move to our next African team, ES Tunis. They were Esperance. They were lucky. That late penalty was saved by their goalkeeper in the end, and they have 3 points on the board. They can also progress, but they have to beat Chelsea.
Yeah, they have to beat Chelsea. I mean, that makes it quite interesting. And there will be a lot of African interest. You know, Chelsea has large following.
Flamengo has already qualified.
Yeah, Flamengo are true. They have won.
There's only one
games.
spot left.
One spot left. And these two teams are the teams with a chance of progressing because Ulsan, on the other hand, are out of that group. I think Ulsan, no, not Ulsan. There is another team in there that is already out. And so it is a big game for ES Tunis. I have been impressed with them because you look at the fact that in the 4 teams that are representing Africa, they look like a side that hasn't been top performing in the last few years in terms of the CAF Champions League.
They made it through not because they won it, but because of their performance
in previous years. Yeah. I think in the last 4 years they've won the CAF Champions League once. The last 3 years has been Wydad, Mamelodi Sundowns, and then Ahly. And so it tells you that in terms of competition, they've not really been competitive on the continent in recent years. But then, I mean, there is the quality. I mean, a player like Yusuf Belaili, he's played across the continent. He's been in the Gulf. He's played in France. There's so much experience there. I mean, he scored that winner against LAFC. Their goalkeeper was also very important in that game. And so that 3 points is a huge win for them. But then they are coming up against a Chelsea side. They've not really been convincing. Yes, they won their first game.
And then they faltered in they cowered in the second game. They broke down, basically.
But then let's also not take away the fact that the South American teams are very good. They've been very good at
not to take that away from them.
They look more sharper. I don't know if it is because they are halfway into their seasons, and so they have been playing a lot of competitive.
And the Europeans are now, they just finished. They're in a holiday mood, relaxation time for them.
And so we would give them that. But then it is Chelsea. It is a club from England. They have a lot of quality players. So but then they will be missing.
No way for that.
ES Tunis rather.
ES Tunis.
It will be a tough one. It will really be a tough one. When you look at the goals, in terms of the goals, Chelsea are ahead of them, and so they will need to win that game. I think they can give Chelsea a very good game.
A run for their money.
Exactly. You know, these North Americans, they are relentless when it comes to some of these games. I think they can push Chelsea, but then Chelsea have a slight advantage over ES Tunis.
So, in the balance. Let me push you to the wall. Who are you picking? Pick one to qualify with Flamengo. I'm pushing you to the wall.
As an African,
you want ES Tunis?
Yeah. I mean,
the Chelsea fans will not be happy.
Well, we have to see an African team going through.
No problem.
If there is
no one will fault you for that.
Yeah. So I would put my neck on the spike. I would go for ES Tunis. Yeah.
The next one is Mamelodi Sundowns.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, they started well versus Dortmund. They were let down, in my opinion, by the goalkeeper. He explained it that he saw the player there, and by the time he had played the ball,
Yeah.
the player had left that position. My own is you should make sure the person is there before
Yeah.
you pass.
Yeah.
But hey, that's spilled milk. We move on to the game, and they lost 4-3. You see all over social media.
Mm-hmm.
Dortmund won the game. Sundowns won their hearts.
Mm-hmm.
You lost. You have 0 points.
Well,
I don't know what we are trying to glorify here, but what do you think are their chances in their final group game? They have 3 points.
yeah, yeah. I think their final game of the group is against Fluminense.
Yeah.
A very tough one because
Yeah.
these South American teams have
And once
been,
again.
yeah, they've been very, very good. I mean, for the mistake,
And Fluminense 2-1, 4-2 versus Ulsan.
yeah, they won 4-2 against Ulsan. I mean, a beautiful free kick for that opener,
Yeah.
opener in that game. I mean, it's not going to be easy for
Yeah, it's not.
Mamelodi Sundowns. Like I was saying earlier, that mistake from Rowan Williams, I mean, it was unlike him at all. Rowan.
He's usually very solid.
very,
In
very.
the AFCON, we saw
yeah,
what he
yeah,
could do.
Yeah, maybe, the platform was very huge. It was a huge stage.
Well,
we could say
well.
that. But then, I mean, the other players are equally
Equally also
on the
good,
same
yeah.
level, and so you shouldn't be making such mistakes in competitions like that. But then, from what I've observed on social media, especially from the camp of the South Africans, I mean, it doesn't speak that well for me in particular. It feels like even though it ended 4-3, we keep on celebrating some level of mediocrity because, look, it is Borussia Dortmund. They had a woeful season last year.
time out, yeah.
Yeah, it was at the end of the campaign that they picked some points.
And
then-
were able to qualify
yeah,
for
were
the
able to
Champions
qualify
League.
for the Champions League. Mamelodi Sundowns had a good chance of, going head to head with them
And qualifying
then
with 6 points.
Yeah, and even qualifying. But then, I mean, we all saw some of the goals. So many mistakes in that game. Yes, they fought resiliently to come back.
But they lost.
Yeah, but then at the end of the day, it was a loss. So it means they would have to go all out in that third game. I thought that game against Dortmund, even a draw would have given them a little bit of hope going into that game. But then, I mean, I expected a lot from them. I felt if there is any team that has been consistent on the continent in the last decade, it's been Mamelodi Sundowns since the days of Picho Mochumani going through to Rolani Mukwege and then now to their new coach. I mean, they've been consistent, playing some flamboyant football. And if you look at their style of play, it is almost similar to the European style of play. And so I was expecting a lot from them. So it wasn't even surprising to me when they won their first game. I expected a lot from the second game, but it looks like they might have blown it away because against Fluminense, it wouldn't come easy. But then again, we'll be supporting them. But then I think their chances is very, very slim.
And finally, today we saw Juventus versus Wydad, ended 4-1.
Yeah.
I think the end of the road for Wydad, if we're looking at it quite critically,
Because
it doesn't look good for them. Their first game, it wasn't also good.
Yeah. They lost their first game to Manchester City, and then they lost to Juventus. I think the
4-1.
pairing didn't go down
If
well for them.
City confirm a win tonight, that would be the end for them.
It's rather
So
unfortunate.
Sundowns, the only hope, along with ES Tunis, they are the only two.
It hurts me because there is Ghanaian interest there.
Yeah.
Samuel Obin
Samuel
Jabba.
Obin,
Yeah, I mean, he started that game against Juventus, but then it was a tough one.
Yeah.
They found themselves in a very difficult group: Manchester City, Juventus, and then
It was
Ahly.
always going to be tough.
Yeah,
I thought they could do it, but think the quality.
I actually didn't rate them to
qualify.
It was always going to be difficult. The quality of these two teams itself. I mean, even Juventus, you look at them, not an overwhelmingly good season, but then at the end of the season, going to the end of the season, they had a very good ride, and they've been able to maintain that consistency. You look at them in that first game, winning by 5-0, scoring another 4 goals. It looks like now the pieces are getting together for Juventus, and so it was definitely going to be a tough one for Wydad. They ended up losing that game. They've now conceded 6 goals already, in
That's
2
not
games,
really
and
good. It doesn't look like they can qualify.
City, it's the end of the road for them.
It's the end of the road. Unfortunate for African contingent. Congratulations to those that have made it. The South American, especially the Brazilian
Yeah,
sides,
yeah.
are making a good name and mark for themselves. Almost all of them, I think, have topped their groups
Yeah,
if we are
yeah.
looking at the table right now. Unfortunately for the African contingent, it's not the same old
Yeah.
story.
Maybe we'll come
Once
back stronger.
again, only two teams realistically have a chance of making it to the round of 16. Thank you so much for joining me here, Lukman, to
You're
do this
welcome. You're
discussion. Let
welcome.
us know your thoughts in the comments box on who you think will ultimately win this Club World Cup. The African teams, which of them do you think can go through? Can Sundowns do it? Can ES Tunis do it versus Chelsea? We'll see you guys in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day.